Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Off the Cuff. My name is Fred,
I'm Brian.
and we have what we've now labeled as a one topic discussion for you today. No more short discussions because they still somehow end up being like an hour long. So,
Yeah. And this is going to be a fun topic now. So
near and dear to our hearts, actually.
very near and dear to our hearts, especially mine. As of July 13th, the Fourth U.S. Circuit Courts of Appeal has issued a majority opinion stating that the laws restricting 18 through 20-year-olds is from purchasing firearms is unconstitutional.
Unconstitutional. You gotta love it.
Yeah, definitely. Anything to give people more freedom. And so, what are your first initial thoughts on this?
Oh, when I saw the headline, I was like, wow. Like, I was blown away because this is something that has bothered me for a long time.
Yeah.
So, you know, I honestly, like right out the gate, like I think this is fantastic. I mean, obviously the court battles aren't over; they're going to peel the crap out of this. But
Oh yeah,
I absolutely love this idea. You know, is every 18 to 20-year-old responsible? No. But my personal opinion is that shouldn't restrict those that are responsible, because not every 35-year-old is responsible. Not every 24 whatever year old is responsible. There, some people are stupid and probably shouldn't be trusted with firearms. But again, that shouldn't limit my rights or your rights because they're an idiot.
Exactly. And it's this article and this ruling is specifically on handguns, which for the longest time, at least as long as I can remember, has always been purchasing age of 21, and rifles, shotguns, and every other thing else, it's 18. So
right. And they've been pushing, actually recently, the left has been pushing to try and raise the age for rifles and shotguns everywhere unanimously up to 21, which this is probably going to put the kibosh on that a little bit.
And I mean, the most common argument is obviously, 18, you can go fight in the military, so you have access to guns. I mean,
you can drive. You can, I mean,
yeah, you can drive.
You used to be able to smoke cigarettes until they took your freedom to kill yourself away from you.
Yeah. Well,
you got to be 21 to be able to pollute your lungs. Like, come on.
Yeah. And then you got to be 21 to also drink everything. I know, like in Germany, they have like 16, you can drink beer.
Yeah. Don't get me started on that too. But
yeah.
I'm gonna piss a lot of people off. I think all that shit should be lowered down to 18, but don't get me started. So as we're reading through the article, which is a CNN article, we've told you before, we go to every avenue for these things.
Definitely not a Fox News or a Newsmax. That's one of the newer ones.
So Judge Julius Richardson, who is the Trump appointed judge, he said the laws stating that you have to be 21 or older to own a handgun, either the Second Amendment or 18 to 20-year-olds are then reduced to a second-class status by those laws. Looking through this historical lens to the text and structure of the Constitution reveals that 18 to 20-year-olds have Second Amendment rights. Virtually every other constitutional right applies, whatever the age, and the Second Amendment is no different. It's about time somebody said it. That is literally the only. I mean, we don't limit other people's God-given rights, like other God-given rights, based off of their age. Like that should be no different.
Yeah, and obviously, there's a 3-judge panel on the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals. Mm-hmm. Like you said, the first judge was a Trump appointee, and the other judge, Judge Stephen. Agee. I'm not even trying to pronounce that.
I'm going to say Aggie.
Aggie, yeah. I just didn't want to mispronounce it. Was appointed by President George W. Bush. George W. And the third one, who obviously was the dissenting opinion, was George James Wine Jr., Barack Obama appointee.
And this is what irritates me, and I know it's hard to separate your politics from your um, from your thought process in most things. But I mean, something like this, shouldn't even be a discussion. And I know this is a discussion that really does get down to, red versus blue, your ideology versus the other ideology. But the reality is, I mean, this is telling. This is telling that, we're talking about a Second Amendment freedom, and the only ones that voted for you to have your freedoms given to you completely and wholly was one side, and the other side was the lone dissenter that said, no, nope, you don't get to have your rights.
Yeah.
And his argument is, he said the gun lobby, it's a victory in a fight it lost in Capitol Hill more than 50 years ago. The ruling is, he claims the ruling is not consistent with the proper role of the federal judiciary in our democratic system. So if this isn't the kind of stuff that the Supreme Court votes on, I have no idea what the hell he's talking about.
Exactly. I mean, isn't that really what the federal courts are supposed to do? Just leave it up for the state courts to decide state matters. Of course, if it's like a criminal felony, of course, federal is going to do it. But I mean, you're dealing with the Constitution. You get one side of the aisle who believe that all these rights are, are guaranteed by God or your creator, and is
or whatever you believe in.
Yeah, or whatever you believe in if you don't believe in anything. But these are rights given to you at birth, and government does not have a right to take it away from you.
Well, and right now the Supreme Court also has another firearms related challenge. And the main target, it's sitting on their desk now as well. The main target is the restrictions, the heavy restrictions that New York State, but obviously a loss for the state of New York would be a loss for a lot of the blue states. But some of the harsh restrictions they impose on people carrying in public as well. As you're very well aware, you pretty much, even as a cop, when your badge is your concealment permit, they get really hinky in New York and places like that as well. Like even like if we were to go there with our badge as our concealment permit, they get real hinky. I've seen instances where they've tried to arrest police officers and stuff like that for carrying off duty and stuff like that within the city limits. It's insane.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, all these rights, this is a good, obviously this is going to get appealed and try to go to the Supreme Court where they can make a decision. But I think it's, for now, a very good win for freedom.
Yeah, absolutely. And so just to give anybody that's not familiar a little bit of background, the lawsuit was specifically targeting several restrictions that Congress passed in a 1968 law, which chief among them was prohibiting gun dealers from selling to anybody handguns to anybody under 21. And their excuse at the time, and bear in mind this was 1968, their excuse at the time was that that they had statistical data that they believed showed that people aged 18 to 20 they were involved in a higher rate of crime and gun violence, like disproportionately higher than anyone else, than any other age bracket. But the Fourth Circuit majority, obviously the two that voted in favor of chopping this down, their opinion was the rights of more than 99% of a group cannot be restricted because of a fraction of 1% commit a disproportionate amount of crime. So basically, every argument that every conservative has and every libertarian has, that I'm responsible, I treat my guns with respect, and I treat them with care, and I treat other people's lives with care and respect. You should not be limiting my Second Amendment rights because less than 1% of idiots go out there and misuse guns.
Yeah. So, and I mean, even that, we've discussed this, I believe, before, where these people who are committing these crimes with guns very, very rarely go to a gun store and buy these guns. They're usually off the street, stolen,
No, and all you have to do is like, we're not going to go through all that nonsense again and
Yeah.
bore everybody with it. I mean,
Yeah.
we did a whole section on a previous episode about it. There's statistics galore everywhere, and it's not hard to find them. If you, I mean, well, it is hard to find them, but it's not hard to find them if you know the right places to look. I mean, you start digging through the nonsense, and they're there. People just refuse to admit the reality of the statistics. But yeah, so I think this is a massive, massive win, even if it, it's going to go through challenges. It's going to go through a lot of process, and it's going to be a while. But I think this is huge win. This is a huge win, and it's needed to happen for a long time. We've had, since before Trump got in office, those miserable 8 years that we had, the pendulum always swings, and the pendulum was swinging drastically in the wrong direction. We've had some horrific shootings committed by some horrible people that deserve whatever laws and any when they go to court and all their punishments are handed down, they deserve whatever they get. It is what it is. But you and I and everybody else should not be restricted from protecting themselves and their family because this idiot decided he was going to go commit gun violence, using a firearm that he didn't legally obtain. So I think this is huge. I think this is a big win. And it's going to stir the pot, and it's going to, I mean, look what happened. We just talked about it with the California ruling that happened a few months ago, the firearms related ruling. It immediately struck down multiple penal codes out there in California. This would, and the question is, so typically when you're arrested on a crime and say you get 20 years in prison, typically, and then the law gets changed 5, 6 years, 10 years down the road, they'll usually let you challenge it and stuff like that. But a lot of times that stuff doesn't really work out in your favor because technically it was illegal when you committed the act. But I'd be curious to see how this is going to work, because this is something that you can argue in court that I should have been allowed to do this. This is a God-given right that was guaranteed in the Constitution, and you violated my constitutional rights by having these gun laws. I should have been allowed to do this. So, and it's not like marijuana is a plant, there shouldn't be rules against it. This is like the Constitution has a whole amendment talking about how I should be allowed to have it. And you basically unlawfully imprisoned me.
Yeah. And I mean, that amendment is right at the top. It's the second one.
Literally number 2. So, there's a lot of discussion. They're talking about, militias and militaries and stuff like that. And the reality is, and I know you mentioned it already, but it's ridiculous that you can snatch up a 18-year-old. Hell, you can snatch up a 17-year-old with a parent's permission. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can snatch up a 17, 18-year-old, stick them on a plane, send them overseas into a sandbox, and give them a high-powered rifle capable of causing mass destruction. And they come home and they're not allowed to own a gun to protect themselves. That's insane. That's ridiculous. The Second Amendment, the battles that people have been fighting with the Second Amendment are probably the biggest examples out of all the things we can talk about of government overreach. We've said this on multiple occasions. Pretty much every gun law is a violation of the Second Amendment. We just dealt with this recently with a registered felon, and you can get your rights restored and stuff like that. But you've got people that are, registered felons for things that they should have been legally allowed to do, and now your gun rights are taken away lawfully because you've basically violated a law that shouldn't have been a law in the first place. So, up until recently, you could smoke. You could, you can drive a car, you can strap on a backpack and a rifle and go kill people for the greater good of the country, but you can't carry a handgun because somehow you're going to fall into the dangers of, all this crime that supposedly 18 to 20-year-olds are so much more involved in than anybody else. Honestly, under 21, the people that I've seen that we arrest the most are usually the 13 to 15-year-old little dirt balls that are going out and stealing cars and stuff.
Yeah.
That's usually more what it is versus, and then there's grown adults. I don't buy that nonsense that that's a small fraction of people. So I'm completely in agreement with these red leaning judges.
And just kind of give an idea of where the fourth Court of Appeals are. That covers South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia, and looks like Delaware, but also incorporates DC and stuff. So, I mean, it's kind of red, kind of blue in that area anyways. So it is kind of interesting that they ended up ruling in that favor. It's not like it was somewhere in the South where there are more red states. Actually, I'm kind of surprised because, Florida, down in Florida, they have the rifles now. You have to be 21. So obviously with this instance, that might change. But again, it's going to have to go. I'm pretty sure it's going to go to the Supreme Court. Right. I can probably almost guarantee that it's going there.
This would have to be successful for that to be successful.
Yeah, exactly.
Which again, don't even get me started on that, Florida. Yeah. So CNN reached out to the Justice Department, and obviously they didn't respond immediately. But legal experts per CNN, those anonymous sources, legal experts said they expected the DOJ to appeal the case and ask for the full Fourth Circuit to review the decision. Whether the case will end up before the Supreme Court is less certain, given the small fraction of cases appealed to it in the high court here that the High Court actually hears each year. But according to an adjunct scholar at the Libertarian Cato Institute, the likelihood of the Supreme Court getting involved in the case increases if that Tuesday's decision stands.
Yeah.
So he finished off by saying, one of the things the Supreme Court pays attention to is when federal statute is struck down as unconstitutional, and it is. So this is going to end up in front of the Supreme Court. We'll see. We'll see what they do with this thing, because you'll know what kind of politicking we're dealing with. If people are going to stand up for rights, or they're going to stand up for politics and all kinds of other virtue signaling and whatever else. So
yeah.
And people that are going to oppose this, they're going to point to all the gun violence and da. But again, you go back and you look at the numbers, and there's not this sweeping gun violence problem that everybody says that there is. It's just more media nonsense, spewing BS, because they're trying to do what every government agency does, and they try to disarm the people. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah. I mean, it's easier to fight people when they can't fight back, huh?
So it's going to be harder for them.
Yeah, definitely harder. But I mean, this is all politics. Of course, CNN, MSNBC, any major news source that wants, views, clicks, they're just going to blow any little tiny incidents of gun violence out of proportion. Unless it affects their agenda, but that's a discussion for another day.
The amount of gun violence that doesn't fit their agenda, that they don't report on, that is its whole separate discussion, like you said, for another day, because it's sweeping.
Exactly. And as long, it seems like whenever they want to get, the AR-15, which is the most popular rifle in the United States, banned or restricted somehow, it's, well, look, this crime was committed, and now we're just going to have round-the-clock coverage on it. So you can be like, yeah, I guess AR-15s are bad.
They are terrible.
We should definitely, those assault rifles, man.
Oh, yeah, assault rifle, the term that doesn't really exist.
Yeah, assault rifles and weapons of war. That's, yeah.
So
very hard to actually get weapons of war.
Yeah, I'm curious to see the opinions on this of the folks that follow our stuff, because
Yeah.
some of them are cops, some of them are not, and we're open to discussion on things
Yeah.
like this. Just because, like, I know we seem pretty pointed about stuff sometimes, and we're like, oh, and we pull a Joe Biden, and we're like, well, you're not as smart as we thought you were. But the reality is, we're open to discussion. We try not to disrespect people like that. And I'm up for discussion on this kind of thing, because this doesn't just affect me. I mean, really, honestly, like, I work in law enforcement. Like, as long as I'm employed in this job, I'm gonna have a gun. Like,
Yeah.
it is what it is. So this affects you more than it affects me. I mean, it still affects me because I'm an American citizen, but it affects you more than it affects me. So, and people don't understand, like, cops more often than not are very, very, very pro Second Amendment, very pro citizens owning guns and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
this is something that's great to us.
Especially in our agency, and I'm not going to speak for everybody, but the people that I've come across are at least okay with people having guns. I wouldn't say I've met anyone. They could be out there, and I probably met them and just really haven't asked their opinion on it. But I haven't really met anyone that's opposed to people having guns.
Yeah.
I mean, I had some until a boating accident, but all I got is my agency issued stuff.
They disappeared somewhere. I have no idea where they went. Right.
That was a terrible day. I went with my friend out on the boat, and that was it.
It was a sad, sad day. So, and then we're still feeling the ripple effects of Trump, and I mean, you can love him or hate him. You can think he's a loudmouth piece of crap, or you can think he's the greatest president ever. It really doesn't change the fact that we're still feeling the ripple effects. And for people that have conservative values and conservative views, even a lot of people that have libertarian views, Trump did enough, just sprinkled just enough appointments in there, and things that really are helping people that vote on the red side of the board a little bit. And this, I mean, in 2018, 2019, this would have never flown. This would have gotten shot down, most likely. So
yeah,
you can love him or hate him, but the people are winning still. Even if he's not in office, the people are winning because of some of his actions. So,
yeah. And I mean, like you said, every president has their effects after their term is, after they're out of office. Obviously, one of the judges was George W. Bush. I mean, yeah. And then you still got Barack Obama. That's the one thing that's kind of interesting about our system, is that these judges who are appointed by presidents, their legacies tend to live on, and you can obviously see that in the decisions that these three judges made.
I'm all for as long as you're protecting people's rights and you're looking out for the people, legitimately, none of this virtue signaling BS, none of this, like, your opinions sway with the winds. Do what's right, do what is right, not what you think the people want to hear. Freedoms are freedoms, rights are rights. People forget the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. They don't grant us anything. They do not grant us anything. They are a document outlining that the government understands we have these rights given at birth, regardless of what the government says. And these are just articulated on paper so people understand. So they violate that document constantly. And little wins like this are, they're a drop in the bucket, but they start building some substance eventually. It's the little battle that leads to the war, the hypothetical war in Congress and stuff.
Yeah, there's like no actual. Yeah.
Right. So these are good. These are great, and I love them. And we need to keep piling these things on. These wins need to keep coming, because and once the first domino falls, they all start coming down. Like we said before, this one's going to lead to possibly changing the rifle and shotgun laws in Florida, and this is going to damage New York and California. This is going to cripple some of these liberal states with their excessive like rights violating laws.
Yeah, I mean, obviously these are going to have major impacts and definitely should not be taken lightly. But this is obviously a good step in the right direction, in my opinion.
And I love it.
Yeah. All right. You got anything else to say about this?
Not without standing on my soapbox and repeating myself with my pom poms and rah rah and yay Second Amendment and telling one side of the aisle to go pound sand. So
yeah. Well,
no, yeah, this was a long time coming. This was absolutely a long time coming. And I'm surprised it took this long.
Yeah, and that's why we made it into the singular one topic episode, because I enjoy freedoms, especially the Second Amendment. Very big supporter of it. So I think that's the end of the episode. I don't think Fred has anything to add.
No, I like it. Let's just, like I said, keep piling them on. Let's keep one right after the other. Just break down all the unconstitutional crap that we've been dealing with since God knows 60s, 70s, 80s. Keep these assault weapons bans out of here. Bill Clinton can go pound sand and keep that stuff. Joe Biden can keep that nonsense.
Oh man, yeah. If Joe Biden can string a sentence together.
You couldn't go the whole video. I mean, not that I didn't already kick Joe Biden in the junk earlier, but if anybody has needed they spent so much time talking about how Trump needs to be mentally evaluated for fitness. That guy needs to be mentally evaluated for fitness. That is a bumbling, and I get so tired of hearing people who are like, oh, he has a speech impediment. No, he doesn't have a speech impediment. He has dementia and his brain shuts off halfway through his sentence. You should be concerned for his well-being. You should be literally concerned for his well-being. It took him, there's a meme going around right now with a quote from Joe Biden, and it was the most incoherent, nonsensical BS. And it literally took him 25 seconds to spit it out. It was one sentence, but it was the length of like a paragraph.
Yeah.
He couldn't structure 2 words together. So, no.
Yeah. So we just got to get our Joe Biden jab in there. But
the bozo in chief.
But from the front, not trying to make this 3 hours long. Please comment what you think about this ruling. Obviously, if you disagree with us, we'd love to hear it. And then if you want to be on the show and you disagree, you can contact us and we'll come back to it. I mean, that's pretty much our ultimate goal, is to get people on here and have rational discussions, not just, talking points back and forth, but have actual discussions and probably a debate of ideas.
I assure you, we talk trash while we're on here, but we're respectful with people.
Yeah.
We're just on here doing what everybody else does and talking noise. But when we have discussions, we try to keep things respectful with people, because I fully expect you to not come in here and be disrespectful with me. So I'm gonna give you the same courtesy. So
exactly. And just we're respectful to everybody that we work with, and that when we go on the calls, we're respectful to people. As long as that same respect is shown.
Respect is given until you lose it.
Yeah. But anyways, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification. That's about it. I mean, we're going to try and get some, maybe going to start doing some other type of videos, maybe video gaming, because Fred and I play some similar video games. And because of the wonderful cross-platform, we're able to do it.
I can't promise you that it's going to be as clean cut as we try to keep these things, because whoever's editing the video for that day might have they might get arthritis from all the censorship. So it gets a little nasty.
Yeah, we'll try to keep it clean, but no guarantees.
No promises. So yeah, just like you said, like and follow and subscribe and all this, all that stuff, all of our social medias. TikTok is blowing up probably more than any of them, but we make sure that the Facebook has the best links to everything as far as getting in, and they all have access to the YouTube channel. But make sure you're getting in there and following us, and telling us what you like, what you don't like, and all that other mess. We managed to still keep coming up with ideas. So, we're all for anything that you guys want to hear about. So,
yeah. All right. With that being said, nothing else to add?
No, not on this end. So, we appreciate you stopping by again by the neighborhood, and we'll catch you on the next one.
See ya.